Tonight on the checkout, Kirsten asks if we're being taken for a ride by the taxi industry. Zoe untangles the mess of HDMI cables. And is there something fishy about tuna?
Campbell's split pea and ham soup. Ingredients: peas 65%, water, carrots, and now for the salt, and wheat flour. And of course, some sugar. And ham. 0.5%. Campbell's split pea and water and carrot and salt and wheat flour and sugar soup may contain traces of ham.
Arena, our great nation is divided. State against state, mate against mate. But no matter where we come from, we can agree on one thing. Our taxis suck. Here in Victoria,
Melbourne Comedy Festival tickets for sale.
By 2011, complaints about taxis had reached 5,000 per year, and barely more than half of people who took a taxi were satisfied with the service. In Sydney,
Apartments with harbour views.
there's even more dissatisfaction, with a record 12,675 complaints registered in 2012.
Did I mention the harbour?
You did. Outside Adelaide,
Go the Adelaide Crows?
some suburbs struggle to book a taxi at all. And it's even worse if you're a driver. Driving a cab is one of the most dangerous and poorly paid jobs in Australia. Tell me about it. Many cabbies earn less than 29 grand a year for full-time, 12 hours a day work, with no holiday pay, no sick pay, no super. And it's not just drivers and passengers who think the taxi industry's got big problems. There have been many attempts over the last 20 years to reform the taxi industry. The 1994 Industry Commission report, the 1999 Productivity Commission report, the 2000 National Competition Council review, the 2003 Perth Taxi Industry review. Can we listen to the radio instead?
For PM, this is Mark Colvin. The 2007 OECD deregulation of the taxi industry summary statement. The 2010 inquiry.
But despite all that effort to improve taxi services, very little has changed. Especially that 10% surcharge when you pay by card. That was invented by CabCharge. And just listen to these rave reviews.
Professor Alan Fells called it extremely high. MasterCard says it's just to pad out CabCharge's bottom line. In 2012, Choice named it Shonky of the Year. And this is how CabCharge responded to calls for it to be halved to 5%.
I'd say bugger it. If that's what you want, you can all go back to cash.
That charge costs Aussies around $90 million a year. And one of the reasons is because for a long time there was no alternative, with some claiming CabCharge uses strong-arm tactics.
Strong-arm tactics? Who said that?
In fact, in 2010, the ACCC fined CabCharge a record $15 million for abuse of market power. Some things have changed since then, but CabCharge's market power isn't one of them. If you're after a taxi in a city like Sydney, it looks like you have a choice of cab companies. But more than 90% of the cabs are controlled by companies with a strong allegiance to cab charge. Taxi licence plates are worth around $400,000 each. Guess who controls how they're leased and lobbies the government to keep the number of them limited? The taxi equipment fit-outs, the insurers. Cab chargers' fingerprints are everywhere, even places you'd least expect. Ever seen this ad?
Book, ride and arrive the safer way with a New South Wales Taxi Council app, supported by Crime Stoppers for a safer community.
Go to their website and you'll see these super safe apps are almost all affiliated with CabCharge. Maybe that's because the director of New South Wales Crime Stoppers, Tracy Kane, who brought the Safe Taxi Apps campaign to Crime Stoppers, is also a spokesperson for the New South Wales Taxi Council and CabCharge.
They're everywhere. Can't you see? Somebody's got to tell the government. No!
CabCharge has a history of hefty political donations to both sides of politics. The Taxi Council would even send scotch to the Transport Ministry at Christmas.
I'll stop you right there. It's true that CabCharge values democracy, like all socially responsible companies, but the suggestion that this money gets you anything whatsoever is absolutely false. Thanks.
And how is this CabCharge dominance working out for us? In 2003, confidential reports showed that 4 out of 5 CabCharge-affiliated cab companies were failing this mandated standard, some by more than 20%. So, what did they do? Improve their customer service? No, the rules about performance statistics were changed to make the same performance look better. And by 2010, only 9 million out of 14 million cab bookings actually showed up. Although that is according to CabCharge's competitors.
Competitors? We have competitors?
Competition started with the emergence of non-CabCharge payment systems like GM Cabs and Live Payment. Not that it stopped the 10% fee. Here, use this one, darling. But the drivers get a bigger cut. And I'm not your darling. Other ways of booking cabs are also emerging in the form of phone apps.
Next available!
InGoGo, GoCatch, Uber, apps like these bypass traditional radio booking networks. Their fees can be lower. With GoCatch, if you pay by credit card, you'll be charged a 7.5% fee, with 3% going to the driver, while Uber doesn't charge a fee at all. And in the unlikely event that a taxi driver's a bit of a freak, on apps like GoCatch, people can give them a negative review. So you can see what others have said about your cab driver before you even get in the taxi. The taxi lobby isn't so convinced, putting out this photo suggesting the new apps would make Sydney look like Kampala, Uganda.
At least in Kampala, you can get a taxi.
It's not just apps making changes. In Victoria, the state government has managed to make some key reforms, following the advice of Professor Alan Fells. Since the 1st of February, Victorians only pay 5% fees on their card transactions, and they've relaxed the rules for hire cars in the hope that it will create more competition for taxis. It's not clear yet what will happen with the rest of the Fells recommendations.
Ooh, tram!
But taxi users everywhere will be watching Victoria and possibly hiring Victorian cabs themselves.
That didn't work out to be cheaper.
And stay tuned, because if you think waiting for a cab takes a long time, the wait for taxi reform's even worse. Isn't that right? Oh. Great value!
Broken chair, please do not sit. Clearance, $20.
Kinda confusing.
This product is not a toy.
20% off.
Was $2.42, 20% off. Now $2.46.
20% off.
Was $239.99, 20% off. Now $259.99.
20% off best.
Was $1.80, 20% off. Now $2.60. Reduced to clear. We'll be back soon. This segment is not a toy.
Have you ever noticed when you buy one piece of electronics equipment, people like me try to load you up with extras? You're going to want a spare case for that, and an external hard drive, and a microwave oven. You really want a microwave oven just to be safe. One very profitable area for retailers can be cables. Just say Doris here wants to buy this television.
I'd like to buy this television.
Great! Well, you're going to need an HDMI cable. Let's go. And Doris, there are heaps to choose from!
First, let me explain what an HDMI cable does. Basically, it connects a source of data, that could be a console or a DVD player or a computer, to a display, in your case, a television. Think of it like a postman delivering mail from the post office to a house.
I know what a f***ing cord is.
Okay. Well, the first thing you'll notice about all these cables is that there's a huge difference in the price. This one here is from Amazon and will cost you just under $6, whereas this one from Harvey Norman will cost you just under $200.
That's 3,000% more expensive.
It is.
So what's the difference?
Well, nothing really. Ah, bugger! Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Oh, well. I'm not really cut out for this job anyway. Grab the cheap cable and I'll explain.
You see, Doris, some companies are quite modest about the features they claim for their cables.
Key features! No features.
But others, like Monster, make their cables sound pretty impressive.
High definition for maximum realism and impact. Enjoy movies just like the director intended.
You hear that? Just like the director intended. Before watching The Great Gatsby, what's the one thing you'd say to the audience?
If you don't have a $200 HDMI cable, then you can piss right off.
And what about...
High definition for maximum realism and impact.
The only problem with the claim maximum realism and impact, aside from basically being gibberish, is that digital signals don't really work that way.
With a digital signal, there's not really a spectrum of quality. Either the information arrives intact or it doesn't. So claims that a cable can offer maximum quality or maximum anything really are pretty bogus.
That's close, but not strictly 100% true.
What are you doing here?
I actually live in the ABC. I sleep under a pile of my own books inside the ABC shop.
Okay.
Oh, hi, Doris. Now, the thing is, you're almost right. Digital signals don't fail in exactly the same way that analogue signals do, but they can still fail. Now, have you ever seen a TV do this? That's a digital signal failing.
So what's that got to do with my cable?
Not much, Doris, and that's where the cable companies are being a little bit sneaky. It's extremely rare, regardless of the cable, for a signal to fail under a distance of about 2 metres.
Right.
For longer distances, you'll need to double check. But even then, it doesn't hurt to try a cheaper cable first.
What's the story about this belly button fluff?
Belly button fluff is made up of a mixture of dead skin cells and fibres of clothing.
Let's go.
But this is all about...
So there you go. Next time someone like this tries to sell you an expensive cable, you now know where to tell them to plug it.
And cue the glitter! Great work, everyone. Now let's make sure people watch it with the right bloody cable.
Vince Offer here with my new product called the Sticky. You're gonna clean your home in a quickie when you use your Sticky. Now here's the deal. It's a reusable lint roller and more. Food particles in the cabinets. Or even sticky your pets before they shed. Works on all fabrics. Stop wasting $100 a year on paper lint rollers. Stop wasting $100 a year on paper lint rollers. Stop wasting $100 a year on paper lint rollers. Stop wasting $100 a year on paper lint. So, with a little...
Why have we been disconnected?
Things have just been a little slow at work.
Are you hiding something from me?
No.
Have you been drinking again?
No.
Oh my God, we're ruined!
But we're free from lint.
And what have you done to the cat?
That's 3 for $19.95. Here's how to
Hi, I'm Delia Rickard, Deputy Chair of the ACCC. If I could say one thing, it's never, ever send money via wire transfer or money order to anyone unless they're family or an old friend you've met in person. There is no bigger red flag that something's a scam than being asked to pay by wire. Many people use wire transfers legitimately to send money overseas to relatives who don't have access to a bank account. But scammers try to get people to pay by wire transfer too, because once you've sent the money, it's almost impossible to trace it or to get your money back. Australians lose more than 90 million to scams every year. More than half of the victims are conned into using wire transfers to send their hard-earned cash right into the hands of scammers. Don't use the wires to shop online or to claim a prize or money which they'll say is owed to you, or for any other reason. And in particular, never wire money to help someone you've met and fallen in love with online, no matter how heartbreaking or convincing their story is. Scammers will pretend to be your soulmate to gain your trust before asking for money. They'll often wait months or even years before asking you for the money. So, if you're about to use a wire transfer, stop. Ask yourself, do I really know who I'm dealing with? Why are they asking for a wire transfer instead of a safer form of payment? Am I sending this straight to a scammer? Because the chances are you will be. So please, just don't do it. You can find out more about scams and how to protect yourself at scamwatch.gov.au.
Dear Event Cinemas, Mum really is number one. So last Mother's Day, I couldn't think of a better idea than spoiling her in the luxury of gold class. I reckon $30 was fair cop for a glass of bubbles, a bit of cheese and chalk, plus seeing the big wedding. There was just one thing. Your gold class cinema package doesn't include any cinema, which made me feel like a total person who's been slightly taken advantage of. If that's gold class, what do you offer the buffet class? One cheesel and a glob of spit in the face to wash it down? Your miserly mummy trap could only seem like a bargain to the gold class scammers who normally charge $22 for a glass of mullet. Now at least I know what the actors in the big wedding are laughing at. Or was it just a typo and the offer was actually to spoil this Mother's Day for Mum? But thanks, Event Cinemas. At least you bought Mum a drink before you f***ed her. Karen.
Even latte-sipping, tofu-eating Chardonnay socialists who watch the ABC have to go supermarket shopping, right? Excuse me, which aisle for fair trade, free-range, organic, eco-chai? That way? But thinking about ethics isn't just a niche thing anymore.
The Australian ethical shopping sector is worth more than $27 billion a year.
Which might explain why the number of products making ethical claims is up.
Up, ethics are up.
And projected to grow by 20% annually.
Take canned tuna, for example.
In your average supermarket,
there's over 120 different varieties for sale.
They all try to appear like they're the morally superior choice, but some claims are so broad, they're meaningless.
What does our oceans forever even mean?
I have absolutely no idea, and oceans are my thing! But that's still less vague than wild caught. When is canned tuna not wild caught? And then there's these. Every major tuna brand says it's dolphin safe.
Now, it is true that human activity can be harmful to dolphins, but...
What's that, Flipper? So for most of the tin tuna that Australians eat,
the dolphin safe logo is as useless as this or this.
Besides, when millions of sharks, other fish and even turtles are caught and killed as tuna industry bycatch every year, boasting about the safety of one species is an irrelevant distraction. There are really just two pieces of information you need. First, how was it caught? Pole and line caught is the gold standard in sustainable fishing. It's one-on-one fishing.
It's man versus fish.
You can eat these things straight out of the river like that.
I've always liked sushi.
That is like the freshest.
Whoa, pole and line caught is definitely better than that. about 7% of tuna is caught by pole and line, all the major brands and supermarkets now carry the option.
And it's not even more expensive.
The vast majority of tuna is caught by purse seine, the kind of drawstring net that got Nemo. Some types of purse seine netting are considered sustainable, but a third of it's done in combination with FADs, fish aggregating devices. Pay attention, this is important for you. FADs are floating objects that attract all kinds of marine life by acting as mini ecosystems. FADs are extremely effective at catching large numbers of fish, which can be the problem with them.
Especially in the case of juvenile fish.
All major tuna brands say they're moving away from FADs and towards pole and line, but then again, brands say a lot of things, so until they fulfil their promises, you might want to keep your eyes peeled. And while we're taking care of all the other species affected by the tuna industry, spare a thought for the tuna themselves. Greenpeace says skipjack and albacore are the safest choices because their populations are the healthiest. But the tunas at greatest risk of overfishing and the ones to avoid are yellowfin and big eye. So maybe take Aldi's Ocean Rise yellowfin tuna off your shopping list. But at least Ocean Rise tells you clearly what's in the tin. Some brands don't. Serena uses the term genus Thunus, which sounds specific and sciencey, but it covers all species of tuna, including yellowfin and big eye. So it's a bit too fishy.
Genus Homo?
If they don't clearly say it's skipjack or albacore, you can't be sure. As you can see, even on a narrow issue like tin tuna, making an ethical decision can be complex. If you think it's more complicated than you can be bothered with at the shops, and that's totally understandable, Greenpeace has a canned tuna guide on their website and on the Sustainable Seafood Guide app.
It really is an ABC Greens conspiracy.
He's right, kinda. Using the app means you're adopting Greenpeace's value system, potentially without knowing the full details. But you might prefer that to relying on corporate marketing departments.
Don't you know mobile phone manufacturing causes civil wars, environmental degradation and factory suicides?
You can't win.
It's F YouTube time again. And this week, it's a real fruit salad of issues. First up is Glenn, who sent us this video.
I printed this from the Coles website. It turns out that Australia's quarantine restrictions actually prohibit the importation of fresh bananas into this country.
That's right. Now, to his credit, Glenn's criticism is very restrained.
I don't think this quite qualifies as a scam. I think Coles has been rather misleading.
Well, Coles haven't explained why their bananas are 100% Australian, Glenn, so maybe it's more patronising to customers than misleading. This, however, is misleading, so it's not just Coles. But in relation to Aussie-grown fruit, checkout viewers do raise the Coles name. Meredith, for example, ordered Aussie oranges online but got ones with stars and stripes stickers on them instead, though she says Coles later fixed that. But no matter where you shop, if country of origin is important to you, remember you'll generally have to dig.
Down.
From oranges to apples now. And on Facebook, Robert Whitmore points out that juice company Pressure Fruit is really turning lemons into lemonade in their apple juice light. Achieving a 10% reduction in natural sugar is easy. Just add water. Literally, they just watered down their Pink Lady apple juice by 10%. They did also water down the price of the light juice though, but the health claims on that bottle do seem misleading. Now, on their website, Pressure Fruit spins this as responding to consumer demand from people who had to dilute our juices to reduce the naturally strong and amazing flavour. That's a pretty weak argument. Maybe they watered that down too. Next, an inquiry from Sean about
this thing I bought at Costco.
Sounds mysterious, but it was just a bag of frozen pineapples from Guatemala. What intrigued Sean was the nutrition claim on the pack.
And they put a sticker, good source of vitamin C.
Sean wanted to know what Costco was trying to hide, so he went...
Is this annoying?
Sure is. But it was worth it, because Sean made an amazing discovery.
Under the sticker, it says excellent source of vitamin C. Why is it a good source of vitamin C, but in the States, it's an excellent source of vitamin C? I don't get it.
Well, Sean, Turns out comparing Australian and American labelling rules about vitamin C in pineapples is like comparing apples and oranges. But the answer is that American authorities let you say excellent source if a food has more than 20% of your daily vitamin C. Those frozen chunks of Guatemalan pineapple have 54 milligrams of vitamin C per 140 grams served. That's over 70% of the daily intake in America, but 120% of the Australian recommended daily intake. Well, Sean, you're right about America.
Everything there is huge.
So even though your pineapple's got about 5 times the vitamin C needed to say good source in Australia, our food standards don't have a category for excellent source. Now, we asked the authorities if imports that meet the American standard really do have to disguise their excellence here. They said,
the importer must apply a compliant label either in place or over the top of the non-compliant label.
So there you have it, Sean.
Thanks for that checkout, and I'm sorry for asking.
And finally tonight, while we're on the subject of
an excellent source of bullshit,
it's time for another dose of Swiss. They didn't like Kirsten's story last week about chlorophyll. Last Friday, they said that the optimal dose recommendation of
18 tablets a day.
That's $1,750 a year.
was old and out of date. It's true, Swiss.com.au doesn't have the 18 pill recommendation now, but it was there just last Tuesday, so it's very freshly out of date. And there are still bottles with that recommendation on sale too. Swiss admitted to us that the labels they told the media were now current are actually soon to enter the market. So apparently you can't get their current labels yet. According to Swiss, its bottles now recommend a serve of just 6 tablets per day, which is interesting. Even though the bottle says it's based on 25 plus years research, Swiss has reduced its recommended intake by 2/3. Did the science change all of a sudden? No, their response makes clear that the dose recommendations on Swiss chlorophyll have nothing at all to do with chlorophyll. It's actually about the other vitamins, and the dose is set to comply with the Food Standards Code. Now, the new bottle also says you can take up to 3 serves daily, which would mean roughly, 18 tablets a day, but only if you choose to boost your nutrition further. Not that they're recommending you do. I mean, you wouldn't choose to boost your nutrition unless maybe it wasn't optimal. Good night.